Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Misfortune supplementary guide. Now, in our complete guide, the last complete guide we did on Misfortune, we covered Misfortune basically with this build, but we did use the Storm Razor instead of using the Essence Reaver. Now, honestly, I think both builds are good and both builds have their merits, but today we're just gonna go over the Essence Reaver version of the build. Basically, with the Storm Razor build, you have a mildly stronger early game, because Storm Razor is a stronger early game item. You do get more attack speed as well. However, with the Essence Reaver, you do have a better late game, and you have better damage on your ultimate compared to if you had Storm Razor. So honestly, the differences are not huge, but as of now, I kind of simply prefer the Essence Reaver a little bit because I do like getting those huge damage ultimates. So, as I mentioned, we start off with the Essence Reaver, gives us AD, crit, and ability haste, and also, of course, gives you the extra damage on your abilities, which is the whole reason you build Essence Reaver on any champion. And then you also get the Mana Siphon, which allows you to restore 3% of your missing mana. Now, honestly, on most champions, this doesn't really matter all that much, but on Misfortune, this actually does matter a lot, because Misfortune is very, very mana hungry. Then we go into the Infinity Edge for more AD, more crit, and increased crit damage. So at this point, as you guys can see, we pretty much don't really go for attack speed all the way until the end, because attack speed doesn't really matter. This build is all about going for the high damage ultimate. Then we go for boots. Generally, I get the Boots of Furor because I do like that movement speed. I get to either kite people out or chase. Misfortune does not have any mobility spells. She does have the strut, which gives her a little bit of increased movement speed, but having this bonus movement speed whenever you attack is incredibly helpful. So I do like to go for Boots of Furor, and generally for the enchant, it's normally going to be Stasis, but of course if you need to, you can pick up QSS as well. So next up, the most important item from Misfortune is the Seralda's Grudge. Now, Seralda's Grudge is really essential because you need the Seralda's Grudge to apply the slow on your E as well as your ultimate to ensure people cannot escape your ultimate. Now, if you have a Mumu or something like that, a huge AoE CC like a Mumu, Seraphine, that kind of thing, you maybe don't need the Seralda's Grudge all that much, but you cannot really guarantee that, especially if you're in solo queue like what I am currently now in majority of the time. You do want to get the Seralda's Grudge, and if you need Grievous Wounds, just pick up the Mole Reminder earlier on and just stick with the Seralda's Grudge. So Seralda's Grudge, more AD, more ability haste yet again, and of course the armor penetration and the slow. Then we go for the Bloodthirster again, AD, crit, and this time we have the Physical Vamp. So of course, Physical Vamp is going to be very, very useful, especially because you do a lot of damage. So you're going to be healing a lot, and getting that overshield will also be really helpful. And finally, I like to end it off with a Rapid Fire Cannon. Now, Rapid Fire Cannon, of course, gives you that increased range, and I like this because sometimes when you're in the late stages of the game, you don't want to really commit, and you can just auto attack somebody once, and if you're at this point of your build, this is your full build, so it will mean that one auto attack from you is going to do a ton of damage, even like the tanks. But if it's on a squishy target, likely it'll deal at least 1/3 of their health, so this Bloodthirst is going to be putting in a lot of work for you. So there are a lot of alternatives. Of course we do have the Storm Razor as a first item, as I mentioned. Look at the complete guide for that one. We of course have a GA, which you can opt into as your last item if you really need to survive and you're getting killed by assassins and such. And finally, we do have the Serpent's Fang. So Serpent's Fang is of course a very niche item that counters shields. So if you're into a team that has a lot of shields, it might be worth it to go for a Serpent's Fang instead of going for 4 crit items, because at the end of the day, removing shield is going to be way more better than critting on someone, because they're going to be shielded anyways. You're not going to actually do that much damage to them. So if you go for Serpent's Fang, I recommend going for it as your first or second item. In fact, I recommend going for it first item, because it has the most value there. You are going to have it up and available all the time, and getting that lethality early is also going to be really, really helpful. And then you can move on with the rest of your build as per normal, like what you see here. So you can go for the Essence Reaver after that. Maybe you swap the positions of these two, go for Seralda's Grudge after that, then Infinity Edge, and then Bloodthirster, and then of course you don't have space for Rapid Fire Cannon anymore. And that's sort of the game plan if you do need that anti-shield. So for the runes, I like to go for Kraken Slayer personally. Now, honestly, Miss Fortune can also go for Conquer, she can also go for Lethal Tempo, she can even go for Supplementary if you're going for that kind of E-poke style kind of build. Now, Supplementary I don't really like at all. Lethal Tempo I think can be good, but honestly with this particular build of MF, I'm just focusing on the burst on the ultimate, so I'm not really focusing on attack speed at all, so I don't really care too much for Lethal Tempo. And Conquer, you can't deny that getting extra AD and extra Omnivamp is good, even though she is ranged, that is still going to help, but personally I like taking Kraken Slayer for a stronger laning phase and just extra damage in the later stages of the game. So obviously Hunter Vampirism, the most stock standard domination rune for ADCs. We go for Nullifying Orb because of course we have a really strong early game. We want to like kind of duke it out in the early game, and this is going to help you with that shield. And lastly, I like to go for Mana Flow Ban because, as I said, Miss Fortune is really mana hungry, and getting that Mana Flow Ban is going to be really helpful for you. And finally, of course, with the spells, we have Flash and we have Exhaust. Of course, standard ADC spells, don't need to explain too much there, but now we can move on to talking about the gameplay. Okay, so now we can discuss the gameplay, and now this one, you guys can see basically the power of Miss Fortune's ultimate. Now, we're gonna really take a look at the power of Miss Fortune's ultimate only a little bit later on in the game. Now, the important thing to just really note about Miss Fortune and her ultimate is, even though this whole build is focused on Miss Fortune and her ultimate, you don't want to be looking for a 5-man ultimate every single time, because in reality the enemies are rarely going to be stupid enough to all stack up together such that you can hit a 5-man ultimate. Normally in team fights you can hit like maybe 4 people, and also don't hesitate to use it in lane to just kill one person. At the end of the day, it's more so important to use your ult in a useful manner than hold it for so long trying to wait for a perfect opportunity. Then you know, just basically if you don't use it, it's useless. It's as if you don't even have an ultimate. So if you use it to kill one person, that's still better than, you know, better than using it to not using it at all because you're waiting for a 5-man ultimate. So anyways, in this particular matchup, I saw that we're against a Vayne, and I picked MF into Vayne because Vayne is really weak in the laning phase. She not only has really low range, but she also has really low damage in the laning phase, unless she can attack me 3 times. But I'm not really going to allow it to happen, or if I do, it's to proc my own Kraken Slayer, where I probably will win the trade anyways. So here, I have a Braum with me who can block like Malphite Qs if really needed. You guys can see already that whenever I am in range of Malphite or Vayne, I'm trying to proc my W onto them, which is of course, or not W, I'm trying to proc my passive onto them to of course get that increased damage whenever I attack a unique target. And Malphite already pops the heal to help them with their sustain in lane. So Vayne grabs herself the fruit, so we already exhausted all of their sustain options. So here Malphite steps up, Braum gets the auto attack on him to proc the passive, and here I can easily, you know, just flash forward, get the first blood onto Malphite, and I exhaust the Vayne as well. Now of course Vayne does manage to flash out and end up over chasing a little bit with the Kha'Zix coming in, and I do die. So honestly, really nice rotation by the Kha'Zix to punish my over aggression. Obviously, if Kha'Zix wasn't there, I wouldn't have gotten the kill on Vayne anyways because she did flash away. But what I was trying to do there is I had 3 stacks of Braum passive on Vayne already, so I was trying to actually exhaust her and then get the 4th auto attack so she will get stunned outside of tower range. But she of course knew that she would get stunned, so she quickly flashed into tower, which is of course a really good move by her. Overall, basically we do end up dying because of our over aggression, but from this whole like first 2 minutes of the match, you can already see why MF is really good. So here we catch Malphite out of position with the Braum passive. We are able to stun him, and pretty much at this point we're just running him down with the help of the Kraken Slayer as well, just pelting him with auto attacks and getting in that true damage from the Kraken Slayer. So here Ahri has come from the rotation, and I'm just trying to be a little bit cautious, and as I say that I get condemned into the wall, but of course Ahri already expended her charm, so no real threat of me dying there, just taking a little bit of needless damage. But we still have the fruit on our end, so unlike the Vayne, we do still have that sustain if we need to, and as I say that, we're gonna just walk on back, grab ourselves a couple of fruit, and we're gonna head back down into the lane. And yeah, so here Malphite again out of position. I'm gonna slow him down with the E, and Braum gets the stun off yet again. I'm always bouncing my double ups onto Vayne and Malphite whenever I can, because obviously that's where Miss Fortune's like main damage and lane dominance comes from. Malphite here steps up again to Q me. Now he doesn't actually take any damage because his passive shield is up. I spot Kha'Zix on the at the river. I'm sorry, not on, at the river. So I'm gonna just back off and I'm gonna recall all the way. Of course, now that we're going for the Essence Reaver, we don't really have a really good build path, no BF Sword, so we're gonna just have to go for what we can get, which is just the Caulfield's Warhammer as well as the Cloak. Not the best starting items for the lane, but hey, you know, we're gonna overall just get more ult power after getting the item. So here again, Malphite has stepped up way too far. I'm not too focused on the Malphite, I'm trying to get the Vayne damaged. So here I'm getting damage on both Vayne and Malphite. Of course, Malphite is pretty tanky. He has that passive shield, so it's really hard to actually do meaningful damage to him. But Vayne, on the other hand, as you can see, we can work around. So we do bounce our Q onto the Vayne. Now here I do believe I should have the Essence Reaver, which is why I am backing. Also, Dragon is going to be spawning soon. I do pick up the Essence Reaver, so for that first Dragon fight, we will have that increased ult damage if we do manage to get off a good ultimate. So Ocean Dragon is spawning, which is the least valuable dragon of the three. But of course it is still a dragon nonetheless, and will of course get the late game dragon stacking started. So it looks like Lee Sin and Braum are coming over. I see Kha'Zix already there. Kha'Zix is currently doing the dragon by himself. Has to hop the wall because all three of us do turn up. So we're going to drag the dragon out a little bit, as you guys can see here. And here I'm warding over the wall to check if anyone's coming. I see actually Malphite goes in with the ultimate. Here I'm ulting across. I can't really see because the scoreboard is blocking, but I do manage to actually kill the Ahri with the ultimate, and as well as burst the dragon down with the ultimate. Unfortunately though, the dragon goes over to the enemy team. However, fortunately I do pick up a double kill, and now we're on the chase for a triple, and we do get the triple onto the Pantheon. Now I have to say that that was a really bad ultimate by Set, because it brought the Pantheon away from me and forced me to use Flash when I didn't actually need to Flash, and that was basically a guaranteed kill because Pantheon doesn't actually have any dashes that will allow him to escape, and he doesn't actually have ultimate, so that was literally a guaranteed kill, and Set didn't even have to use his ultimate. I didn't have to use my Flash, but we end up having to use both because Set got a little bit over eager. So now here the whole enemy team turns up to the Rift Herald. Set gets a kill onto the Kha'Zix, and here I'm just staying behind the Braum and the Set. Of course, those are my frontline champions. I'm just blasting whoever I can over the wall. Now here Akali finds herself in a 1v1 against the Vayne. So Akali is defending top, Vayne can't get tower plate. So here I am with my team. I'm trying to pick up the Rift Herald. Kha'Zix is dead, so this shouldn't be a too difficult task. Malphite ults himself in. Rift Herald is left at 1 HP. I'm not sure who gets it actually. But we do manage to escape. Braum actually ends up getting the Rift Herald. And yeah, we do actually end up having to escape. So here Braum hits his ult. He's 1 HP. Unfortunately for Ahri, she tries to chase the Braum, and I'm in the area. So Q auto from me instantly kills the Ahri. So Ahri yet another death on the board. In the meantime, we're doing really well. We've picked up, of course, a triple kill. I believe we should be 5-1 at the moment. Now, the scoreboard is still getting obscured by like that Apple gesture thing at the bottom, but I've already fixed that. So in future videos after this one and the next one on Samira, we will be able to see the scoreboard even for the person at the lowest position, because I have already adjusted that and fixed the problem. But for now, we're going to have to bear with the problem. Alright, so here I make a huge mistake by getting myself condemned against the wall. I get exhausted and I basically get run down by Vayne. So this is kind of what I want to avoid. Is of course I'm still an ADC. I'm still incredibly squishy, and Vayne can still kill me really easily if something like that happens. If I get condemned into the wall, get a couple of free auto attacks on me, get exhausted, I can't trade back. You know, I'm just gonna get destroyed. But fortunately, Lee Sin comes in, does get the kill onto the Vayne instantly. Malphite uses his ult to ult the Lee Sin, which means he doesn't have it to escape, which basically gives the Lee Sin another free kill. So Lee Sin picks up a double. My whole team is doing relatively well. Akali 1-0 as well. Lee Sin 4-4. Now, as I say that, Lee Sin does die, but it's not too big of a deal. So here I'm gonna just push the mid lane now, because I see everybody's you know, at the top lane. I'm just gonna quickly push the mid lane. I do get the mid lane tower, and I'm quickly gonna just run away from the Ahri, who I can see coming down from the top side. Of course, getting mid lane tower is of course always a very important thing in every match. I also pick up IE off of that. Getting mid lane tower is always very important. Opens up the map, allows you to access the enemy's jungle way more easily. So we do end up picking up the mid lane tower. And now we can rotate back up to top lane where Braum is kind of getting harassed by Vayne and Malphite. Well, not really, because he's kind of at full health. Alright, so here we're just going to quickly clear out the minions. We can clear minions really fast, of course, with the help of our passive and our Q proccing that passive. But not too big of a deal. We haven't really seen any huge Miss Fortune ultimates yet. We did have two relatively good ones at the Herald and the Dragon fight. Not too bad, not too shabby, but nothing to write home about in my opinion. So Malphite walks up again, Qs me. I do manage to auto attack him back. Ahri is here as well. And yeah, another two more other uses of the ult is, of course, number one, to clear a wave if you're in a very desperate situation, which at this point we're not. I don't think I do that in this game. Another time is when you have a zoning ultimate. Now, a zoning ultimate is kind of a meme, but it does really exist. Like, sometimes you just want to use your ult to zone people away. Like, for example, if you're doing dragon and the enemy team is starting to walk towards the dragon, sometimes you can just launch your ultimate at the direction they're walking. It may not actually hit them, but because your ultimate is there, they can't actually walk up, because they have to walk through your ultimate, and you do actually end up zoning them away. Now, as I was discussing the uses of the ultimate, I don't actually end up discussing me and Lee Sin simply just dying here. So it's kind of getting out of hand. Vayne is starting to get really strong. Akali flashes in 1v3, gets herself exhausted, tries to finish off the kill, but ends up donating her life over to... I don't know whether it was the Vayne or the Ahri, but to one of them, and it's starting, and the game is starting to spiral out of control, especially since we were hard winning at the beginning of the game, but now the game is getting really close. Both teams are less than 1,000 gold apart, so this is a really close game at this point in time as we reach the second dragon spawn. So now, of course, Miss Fortune does love fighting at objectives because there is a high probability that you can get off a good ultimate. So of course you want to be at every objective fight. Here again we pulled out the dragon slightly. I'm going to ward over the wall, spotting the Kha'Zix. I'm trying to get free damage onto Kha'Zix so that when he jumps in like that, we can finish him off. Really nice disrupt by the set. Here I get off an ultimate onto like two or three people, more or less. And I think that was what I call a standard ultimate. Like, this is what you want to aim for. Like, you want to aim to hit like at least 2 to 3 people. Hitting only one person is kind of a little bit sad, but yeah, so we do hit 2 to 3 people. That's pretty standard. Here we try to actually go for the Malphite. Akali does manage to finish it off with the shuriken flip, and yeah, Braum does tank up the tower for us to finish off that kill. Alright, so here we're clearing out the wave, but not completely. So we do have the mid lane priority, and our wave is going to start to slow push. Probably someone's going to respond to that really soon, but it's pretty much just going to be a distraction for us to try to pick up the Rift Herald. However, we realize that Lee Sin is dead, so we realize that Kha'Zix can come in and smite steal. So here what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually trap for the Kha'Zix. Unfortunately for us, Kha'Zix doesn't actually walk up to the trap, so we end up simply just chasing him away. But we've wasted enough time such that Lee Sin is back up and he's making his way toward the dragon. Here I'm again trying to ult. This one is not the best one. Does manage to zone people away from continuing the chase, but Kha'Zix does end up picking up the kill. Not Kha'Zix, Pantheon does end up picking up the kill onto Set. So here Braum and Set are dead. Enemy team pretty much gets the Rift Herald because we do have no choice but to concede it. Can't really contest. Herald is going to allow them to open up the mid lane by picking up the tier 1 tower and maybe even crash into tier 2. So we're going to quickly reset. I'm getting QSS in this game because there's a whole load of CC on their team. They have the Pantheon stun, the Malphite ultimate, the Ahri charm, and the Vayne condemn. So a lot of CC on their team. Really want to get myself the QSS so that I can, you know, try to prevent it from happening. Now, of course, I don't use it in that instance when Malphite is going to ult me, so we don't actually escape that CC there. We do kill the Malphite, and I get a alright ultimate. It does damage on a couple of people, but Akali does manage to finish off majority of the kills. Ahri is still on the run and is going to be able to actually escape. Alright, so here we do have a wave, so we're trying to push down the tower. We did just get 3 kills onto the enemy team, so we are able to actually trade the mid lane tower back, the one that they just took from us, and we are able to indeed pick up the tower. So of course Vayne is still alive, Ahri is still alive. Those are the 2 main carries of the team, so we can't really do too much funny business. Yeah, so Miss Fortune, as you can see, picks up the Crux incredibly quickly because of her passive, of course. So here we are going to be able to complete our back, and pick up the Seralda's Grudge. So now at this point when you reach these 3 items, Seralda's Grudge plus the double crit item, you should be pretty strong at this point, especially because you have the slow to prevent people from escaping your ultimate. So at this point you should be really strong, and you should be able to like kill someone with your ultimate, the someone being a squishy target of course. So here just going to quickly clear out the middle lane. We see Vayne somewhere toward the Baron area, but highly unlikely that their team is actually just straight up doing Baron, but regardless of that, we're just going to hover around that like general Baron area. We see a couple of them mid, and we can see them rotating to top because Akali is of course pushing top. So here we ping the Akali back to stop her from getting caught pushing out the side lane. And yeah, so we do know that they're somewhere there. Kha'Zix barely actually misses jumping onto the Akali. Akali does manage to complete the recall successfully, and because of that, all the enemies are actually on the top side of the map. I say that, but the Pantheon is not, which is obviously I thought that everybody else on the top side of the map. Pantheon is not. Forces me to actually blow flash and exhaust to keep myself safe from him. So he did manage to force 2 subs, which is really huge considering Miss Fortune doesn't have mobility and flash is her main escape spell. So that kind of hurts. But yeah, red buff is about to spawn. I'm doing really well, so I'm waiting to take the red buff, of course. Lee Sin does go for the Krugs. And yeah, we do end up picking up the red buff here. Here, Braum is trying to defend the mid lane, asking for assistance, so I'm immediately going to come on over and try to help him out. Kha'Zix trying to just chip at him a little bit, but of course with the Braum unbreakable, Kha'Zix is not going to do too much damage against the Braum. So of course here we see that the Infernal Dragon is going to be spawning soon. So here I'm just going to back and just reset before the dragon. Now I'm pretty much full health, almost full mana, but we can probably just get an item component. Actually, we can get 2 item components. So that's the main reason why I backed. Of course, we're going to build toward the Bloodthirster. So Miss Fortune's map rotations are pretty good. I say that I walk right into a wall because of her passive movement speed on the strut. So here it looks like we're kind of setting a trap for the enemy team, but no one is really walking into the trap. Alright, so here we can see the enemy team is coming in from the other side of the jungle. No point to really stay in that bush anymore. So here, you can see that a fight is kind of going to break out real soon. Ahri comes on the flank, but appears a little bit too early before her team actually commits. So we do know that Ahri is trying to flank. Pantheon ults in, which actually zones us away from the dragon. Here I get a huge, amazing ult across pretty much the entire enemy team, and because of that I pick up another triple kill and we get a clean ace. Akali gets a double. So here is the main example of a huge Miss Fortune ultimate. Now the huge Miss Fortune ultimate, pretty much the entire enemy team was caught in that ultimate, and with the slow on the Seralda's Grudge on both your E and your ultimate, they really couldn't escape. And actually, like 3 of them die with their flash down, so I'm not quite sure what the enemy team is doing. But off of that, we're not only going to pick... Actually, they do pick up the dragon, but it doesn't matter because we are going to pick up the game. So here, we do have the victory on Miss Fortune. Now, I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual, but do take note of how much damage Miss Fortune actually does. So, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.